Hi, and welcome to the Punk CX podcast. My name is Adrian Swinsko, and I'm an advisor, best-selling author, speaker, and general explorer when it comes to customer and employee experience. I'm really interested in figuring out what it takes to build organizations that produce better outcomes for both customers and employees. So with that in mind, I seek out and interview CEOs, entrepreneurs, business and tech leaders, authors and academics to uncover some clues about what it takes to build such an organization. Now, some of you may know the podcast as the Rare Business Podcast, but I decided to rename and rebrand the podcast recently. This is for a number of reasons. First one was to mirror the title of my book, Punk CX, which was published in June 2019. Two, because I'm a fan of punk music. And three, it's just more fun, right? Anyway, if this is your first time listening to one of these interviews, then hello and welcome. And please do dive into the archives at adrianswinsko.com, as I've now completed over 300 of these interviews in the last few years. If this is not your first time listening, then welcome back and thank you. Anyway, that's enough for me right now. Let's get into the interview. So welcome to the next edition of the Punk CX podcast. I am doing something that I'm really not prepared for today. It's something very, very different, but I'm super excited by it. It's been a progress of a piece of work that I've not been alone on over the last number of months. Now, as you all know, I published Punk CX back in 2019, but then 2019, that was pre-pandemic, and a whole bunch of things kind of changed. And I think we've seen sort of the experience space evolve into this kind of almost a multi-dimensional thing, which sounds a bit sci-fi, a bit fantasy, but it's not really. And it's been making me think about experience on a whole different sort of level. And so I've been thinking about doing a follow-up to Punk CX. However, given that it was started like an album and it's inspired by music, I was always, and given the reception that Punk CX got, which is very positive, I got a bit nervous about second album syndrome. And I was a bit like, I don't want to kind of like, produce something and everybody goes, yeah, that was, which is rubbish. And so I started really thinking about it. And then I was thinking about it a bit more. And I thought, well, actually, why don't I do something which sort of speaks to different experiences? And so we've got a new book coming out, and it's called Punk XL. And XL stands for experience leadership, because we're talking about experience, but I don't think we're talking enough about what it takes to lead in an experience space and what that means across different dimensions. And in order to build that out, and in order to make that kind of real, I invited a whole bunch of kind of people from around the world to try and contribute it. So borrowing from, say, R&B or hip hop or something. So we have people that have contributed tracks or featuring artists, as it were, in their own right. I'll introduce them to you in a minute, because they've been my secret squirrel club, as it were, working in secret in the studio, developing this kind of new album of kind of tracks. But because the project is so collaborative in nature, but it was only appropriate that we share some of the value from it. And because of that, all proceeds are going to go to these wonderful people. Only because, one, I really like them, but I think it just feels really appropriate given what we've gone through, what we're still going through, and what many people will continue to go through for the next kind of few months, next few years, et cetera, and on going on. So it's a beautiful cause, and it's a very collaborative kind of effort. Hence, kind of that's why we're going to try. Well, we're going to send all proceeds to Médecins Sans Frontières or Doctors Without Borders. They are a splendid organization. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now, and I want to introduce you to some people that worked with me on the book, and they're going to tell us, kind of introduce themselves and tell us where they're kind of calling in from. This sounds like a radio show. and tell us a bit about kind of like, why they agreed to get involved in the project. And so I am going to come to Serena, who's down here on my screen, which is probably up there on yours, but it's down there on my screen. Serena Riley, welcome. Tell us kind of like a bit about yourself and why on earth did you get involved in this project? Bit of a zany thing to do.
It's a bit of a punk thing to do, I think, actually. So Serena Riley, I hail from Michigan in the United States. Super excited to be a part of this project, Adrian, and I'm so thankful that you put together a book highlighting the leadership aspect of things, because that's an area that I'm super passionate about, just because I think that great leaders are what make great companies and great places to work. And I think that we don't shine enough on the skill sets and the just the attributes of a leader that really make a team work collaboratively, making the entire organization work collaboratively, therefore bringing the best experiences to both the internal and external folks. And so that's really why I'm excited to be a part of this, because I think there's a lot of great voices in this book that are singing a tune that we all need to listen in on.
Serena, so thank you for saying yes and getting stuck in, and for the contribution that you made. And we'll talk about some of that sort of stuff. Or people should just buy the book. It's coming out early December. Should just go out and buy it, because all proceeds are to charity, people. So that's a good thing. So I am going to come to Joyce Kim next, who is the CMO of Genesis. And actually, in many ways, Joyce, you're the active leader in this kind of like cabal, because we've got another kind of like group that's going to come up, which is more contributors, that's going to be done at the end of this week. So we're going to have like a 2-part launch. But Joyce, you're an active kind of leader. I mean, like, why did you get involved in kind of, what does this kind of project mean to you as well?
Yeah, thanks for having all of us. It's been an amazing ride. As you said, I mean, I think, when you think of what the notion that you're talking about, sort of this whole punk CX and then now punk XL, is just, it's so challenging in the sense that when you read and when you think about it, it's so obvious, but it's so hard to do. Mm-hmm. And I deal with it every day. And so to really evangelize this notion and to make it better, not only, as Serena said, for the leaders in the company and the employees, but to our customers and those people that they serve. Like, to me, I thought that was a really noble thing, especially now when people are getting more risk averse and they don't want to do new things. So it's a fantastic message, I think.
Thank you so much. And I should note that we've had Serena, who's calling from Michigan. The Joyce is in California. I'm going to...
San Francisco Bay Area.
There you go. Big shout out to the Bay Area. And I'm going to... We'll come to... Actually, it's this way on my screen. To Amy, who is in the countryside in England, and to say, Amy, introduce yourself and tell us, why on earth did you get involved?
Well, I'm in the Cotswolds, and you can tell from my accent I'm not a native-born Brit. I'm originally from New York and spent time in Australia and now in England, all 3 English-speaking centres in the world. But no, why did I get involved with it? Well, I loved the first book. It was irreverent. We could dip in and out of it. It was passionate. And also I quite like working with you, Adrian. So that was one of the reasons. And also I really feel that, I'm really passionate about making life better for both customers and staff alike. And I strongly believe that you cannot deliver a great customer experience without having a great employee experience. And that all comes down to leadership. It's about leaders actually walking the talk and really, really listening to what staff and have to say and making it better for them and trusting your staff to do the right thing for both the customer and for the business. I once had a boss who said to me, what I do is I hire the very best people I can, and then I get out of their way and trust them to do the job I employed them to do. And that always resonated and stuck with me. And it's also about people acting with authenticity and humanity. And, there's a Yiddish word for it called being a mensch. Yeah. And being a mensch means that you act with integrity and honor. And I think leadership could learn something from that. And also, I'm a huge fan of punk. Yeah. And it was my era, which is showing my age. And I thought it was a good way to try and combine my two passions,
Awesome.
really.
Thank you, Amy. And Lara, who's from the Emirates. So we're almost, I get that. I mean, I'm thinking, do we have half the world covered? I mean, would San Francisco and kind of the Emirates be on possibly opposite sides of the world? I would say that's probably close, kind of nearby. Anyway, Lara, tell us about yourself and also kind of like, why?
You ask that question like it's so impossible and improbable that you could have gotten anyone to contribute, Adrian. Well, it made sense on so many levels to get involved. And going back to what Amy said, and Amy and I were sort of fangirling earlier today as we were getting to know each other, but it's very true, because what Amy said about employees and customers and leaders listening to both of them. So the reason that I got involved was because even before the pandemic, I was hearing people complaining about the digital experiences and the face-to-face or whatever experience they were having was just not living up to scratch. And then when the pandemic rolled around, it got even worse, especially with the digital experiences. Customers were finding it difficult to use things. Things were crashing. Employees were finding it difficult. And I've heard this from the employees as well, saying, we really wish that the company would listen to us. We really wish that the company would do something, because we are on the front line listening to the customers' frustrations. We're feeding it back, but nothing's getting done. And so for me, this was just such a massive opportunity to speak up for people whose voices weren't being listened to, whether it was the customers or the employees. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I thank you on their behalf as well for allowing me to contribute a track to your album, Adrian.
Well, thank you very much. And then last but not least, we got the band back together. Or what can I tell you? You know, and so with three compatriots, now Matt can't be here today, but particularly with Tom and Oisin, they helped me with enormously with the first book. And so when I told them there was a second book coming, and they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Would you like to get involved?" And they were like, let me get back to you on that. So I want to kind of say, first of all, thank you to Tom and Oisin and to Matt for getting stuck in with me on this again. But, what's it been like for you second time around? I mean, easy, hard, kind of different, kind of like, what do you think? Oisin, I'll come to you first.
Hey. Hola, amigos. Great to be here. Thank you, Adrian, for somehow letting me back to have another shot at checking the spelling for one of your books. It's been great fun. I loved it as much as I loved the first book. The second one is very broad in its scope. It brings in all these superstar guest musicians and collabs. I absolutely love the album metaphor. I think coming back to something you've said many times, Adrian, customer experience is a function of employee experience. And I think in this book, you're really exploring how both are a function of leadership experience. And, this book is like an adrenaline shot in the arm of the customer experience industry. You're really giving leaders the permission to kick ass, to do something new, to think outside of the box, and to improve things across the board in these very challenging times. From my own point of view, it's been great to work on it. I think it's an amazing book. I think everybody listening or watching should go out and buy it. You're going to learn so much from the rock stars that Adrian has gathered in the studio for Punk XL, and I can't wait to see the reaction it gets from the broader industry.
Oh, you're making me blush now. Tom and Crumbs, I guess you're kind of like nearest to the coalface on this than anybody else. I mean, so kind of like, why did you say yes the second time?
Yeah, well, I sort of, I'm not sure. I felt like I didn't really have an option. I was kind of press ganged into it a little bit, but no, it's such a great project. Unfortunately, Matt can't be here. Myself and Matt have both been involved in the design. Obviously, we're involved in the first one. I've known Matt for 10, 15 years probably, and we both came from a magazine publishing background. But in the last 10 years or something, we've hardly ever done any flat plans. We've hardly ever done anything with more than 20 pages. Everything we do is digital. So to come back and do a book again, with such a stylish book as well, with such great content, it's been an absolute pleasure. So we've both sort of harking back 10, 15 years, but yeah, book publishing, magazine publishing, it's just great. It's so great to see it. And yeah, we're super chuffed to be involved.
Nice one, Tom. Thank you so much for all of your help. And a big shout out to Matt as well, who's been incredible in this. So just for the video, because we're live, I showed you this before. This is what Punchy X looked like. This is the big reveal, I guess, live on kind of camera. This is kind of what Punk XL is going to look like. So it looks like the two of them look like cousins. Ta-da! Which is brilliant. Oh, yeah. The pink's going to be a bit more kind of vibrant, a bit like the pink on kind of here, but you'll see that it says Adrian Smith's and friends, and has everybody featured down the kind of bottom. So we've got about 12 different contributors that have contributed about 15, 16, 17 different tracks. I can't exactly kind of remember, but that's what it's looked like. But actually on the back, it gives you an idea of the dimensions that we are exploring when it comes to Punk XL. So we're actually looking at the individual level, at the team level, the organizational level, the customer level, and beyond. So this is we're exploring what it takes to lead or become an experienced leader, across the piece. But here's what I want to do next. I want to put my assembled guests on the spot. And I want you to pick your favorite track. Only one condition, can't be your own. So I will come to, I'm going to come to Oisin first, just because Oisin, I've just missed your Irish brogue, man. It's just like, it's brilliant.
Oh, good Makara. Well, it's been too long since we've had a pint of Guinness in Brighton together. And that's definitely,
ladies and gentlemen, that's where this whole thing started. Back in the day, December 2017 in the Basket Makers, Oisin and I were drinking too much Guinness. And I blurted out the word punk, and that's where it all started from. So
great ideas.
It's his fault.
That's very kind of you. Well, I blame the Guinness myself, but it's been an amazing ride since then, all those years ago, and all of a sudden this book arrived. It's absolutely amazing. Do you know what? It's tough to pick a track that you like more than the other tracks. It's really tough, but I'm just going to go for my Groove in My Heart by Martin Lucas, because he's somebody I really admire. I think he's a different thinker, and I've seen him speak, and he's fascinating, and he's a really good guy. And I think just his kind of perspective and the way of writing things, very much in tune with the musical theme of the book. I like the way he's kind of used the song by Delight as a springboard for commenting on experienced leadership. And folks watching, listening, you are in for a treat, whichever track that you tune into.
Awesome. I mean, Martin actually was supposed to be with us today, but he sent a last-minute email saying that he just got back from being away for a few days, and client demands has gone through the roof, and so he's just got swept aside with kind of paying attention to people that pay the bills, as it were. I'm going to come to Joyce next.
God, I was trying, I have two that I was like, I love both, so I couldn't decide. But it's between Female Rules, of course, and The Stench. I mean, like, the emoji just caught my eye so much. And then, like, what it said made so much sense. So I would say those two are, like, the most interesting. And how can you not read a book that has a poop emoji? So there you go. Anyone was going to do it. Of course you would, Adrian.
Thank you. And Serena, what about you?
Oh, there's so many good ones for sure. Of course, I'm a little bit partial to the Female Rules as well, but I will say I really enjoy Lara's Voice of a Customer piece, which was written from the prospect of a customer writing into a company and asking essentially, what the hell is going on? Can we please get some understanding of what we need and focus on that? And I thought it was really smart. It was really funny, and it was a great read.
Awesome. Thank you. And I tell you what, Tom, I'm going to come to you next.
Okay. Don't hate me for sitting on the fence here, because each and every one of you contributors is a winner. Let me say that personally. But yeah, for me, the real joy of it was bringing all of the elements together and tying that together with the design. So every single item for me is kind of gels, and that's what makes the whole book. So that's kind of where I'm at on my favorite one.
Oh,
if I'm allowed to.
He's such a nice man.
Thank you.
Amy, what do you think?
Like Serena said, it was so difficult to choose one because there were so many of them that I really liked. But in the end, I'm with Serena. I really, really loved Lara's voice of the customer because I think it just summed up how many people were feeling at the moment because of the terrible omnichannel experiences that most of us have to deal with. And basically, it was authentic. It was raw. It was honest. And you could hear a customer actually saying it. And the fact that there's nobody there to help you solve a problem, or nobody will take ownership or will resolve what the issues you have, and the frustration that customers feel. I thought it was so on the money.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And well, Lara, I'm going to come to you and kind of have to kind of like speak through the blushes, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, oh, wow. It's, for me, it's an honor to have been part of this with Serena, with Amy, with Joyce, and with everybody else, because I've seen what you do and I've loved it. But anyway, told you Amy and I were fangirling a bit earlier. It's Amy's piece that was my favorite for the very simple reason that it spoke to the reason I do what I do. And one of the first points that I make to people is, it's on you. And that's exactly what Amy says. It's on you. And leadership is about being accountable and taking responsibility. You cannot, as a leader, look at someone else to blame. And the way Amy said it, it was so simple, so clear, and you just can't mistake it. There is no room for excuses for anyone to read that and go, no, actually, it's not. No, you know what? Yes, it is. It is on me. And it's just so simple. And I love that about Amy's piece.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to do a quick kind of follow-on kind of question to all of this, just to give people the kind of a sense of, because this book has punk at its heart, and punk is very much about being direct and true and straight from the heart. You know, whether you like it or not, it's there, right? It's like, there's the message. So if I come back to you, Lara, and say, what's the one clear message that you would like to share to people or invite people to do in order to achieve or kind of start on that journey to achieving sort of experience leadership? What's the one quick fire piece of advice or instruction, or just go do that?
I don't know if it's do that. Do hire someone whose specialty is creating experiences. It's impossible. And this is what a lot of companies are doing. They're throwing it at the HR department, or they're throwing it at the marketing department if we're talking about EX and CX. There are skills that these people simply don't have because they've never had to use them. But also, creating experiences is a full-time job. Your marketing teams already have a full-time job. Your HR teams already have a full-time job. Throwing experience creation at them is not fair. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to your customers. And it's really not fair to you, because then you get seen as a bad leader. And that's the leadership part of experience leadership for me, is understanding, being accountable, taking responsibility for creating these great experiences, whether it's for people you work with or people you're working for.
Yeah, and it's a bit like what Amy said earlier on, was like, hire the best people and get out of their way.
Yeah.
Right? Help them do, be great at what they do and do a good job. And so, Amy, what would be your sort of like punk piece of advice?
I think it all comes down to trust. Yeah. You have to, it's the cornerstone. It's how you build relationships with staff and with customers. And business leaders really need to look at this. You know, it's about, like I said earlier, trusting your staff to do the job that you've hired them to do. And also, you want your customers to trust you, but yet you don't trust your customers. I mean, I'm not naive. I know people will be out there gaming stuff. But the way I've seen it is that lots of people develop processes and systems to catch a small percentage of people who game stuff and penalize the overwhelming percentage of people who are basically honest. So if you can't trust your customers, how do you expect them to trust you? So for me, that's what a lot of it comes down to.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. It's like a lottery. Where am I going next? The wheel's spinning. I'm going to come to Oisin next because he's sat right below me. On my screen, that is.
Hello. How are you? It's a great question. I love it. I think there was some great stuff in the book about the importance of diversity. And I think, in 2021 and beyond, if you don't have a board of directors that is diverse, if you don't have a business that leverages diversity on an operational level, it's going to bite you on the ass because you are not going to see the problems that are coming. If you look around in your boardroom and everyone's the same as you and you say, hey, what do you think of this? And they say, hey, I think it's great. I think you're great. We're all in agreement. Fine. That means you're not seeing the 360-degree picture. And, this thing can have legal consequences. It can, it can really destroy your business. You need to operationalize diversity. It needs to be baked into your DNA as a business, or you're going to miss the next big thing that's going to trip you up. You can't really have good CX and good experience leadership unless that leadership team is diverse. So that's my personal take on the matter.
Thank you, Oisin. Spot on, sir. Spot on. Joyce, what do you think? What would be your kind of like one sort of big sort of headline sort of right smack between the eyes piece of advice?
If you read every single thing, I think the thing that like I had to remind myself to really listen to what the message was, right? And there's so many stories that you're going to resonate to, and then you sit there and say, take a step back, just what am I hearing? And then, how do I express that? And so I was thinking about from a leadership standpoint, like everybody is so caught up in what I'm going to say next that you don't really listen, right? You're just practicing in your head, like, how do I respond to this? Or what am I going to say to that? I think the best advice I would have, which I've taken myself, is just listen. Like, don't think about that. Just listen and hear people, because, and exactly as Amy said, like, hear your customers, hear your colleagues, hear your leaders, hear your employees. And I think we're all going to learn a lot. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Thank you. Serena, anything to add?
Yeah, I love the listening piece because that's where I was thinking too. But I think even to I don't know, bring it up a level from that is just be a freaking decent human being. Just show the human element to all of this. Listening is a key component of it, but then do something with what you just heard. Don't listen to respond, listen to act. And I think that's what we lack a lot of too, is we put these listening posts up, but then nobody is advocating for what needs to happen next. Nobody's creating the action plans. And I think that the more that we can show how we act and are responding to what we hear, the more compassion we're building, the more people are going to build that trust, like Amy was mentioning, that we need, and the more people are going to keep coming back. And that applies to both the internal employees as well as the external stakeholders that you serve too. You have to take care of the people. The people are what all of this is about.
Awesome. Amy, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just picking up on Serena's point. It is about acting. If you want your staff to trust you, you have to act on what they tell you. And when they see you act on what they tell you, then they begin to trust you more and more and more. And so it becomes a virtuous circle, if you like. So, yes, I think you're absolutely right, both you and Joyce, about the listening piece.
I think the thing I would kind of like just add on that before I'm going to put Tom on the spot and come to him and ask you if he's got anything he's going to add. I'll give him a bit of thinking time first. But I think the thing I would add to that, and it was something that was in the Punchy X book, which was a piece of graffiti that I saw on a telephone cabinet in the center of kind of Brighton, where I'm based, and it says, "Dude, the first step towards getting sort of good at something, sucking is sort of the first step towards getting sort of good at something." And I think that's one of the things that I'd like to say to people is like, you know what? You don't have to be perfect. It doesn't need to be absolutely kind of boiled and nailed. It's like you have to embrace the almost the suckiness of it all, that you will make mistakes and all these different sort of things. But that's the only way that you grow and you progress. You got to step into this because, like I say, right at the very end of the book, is that step up or step off, because this is important work and we're all waiting. And with that, I'm going to chuck this hospital pass over to Tom and ask Tom if he's got anything he wants to kind of, to add.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd just sort of hark back to what Oisin said earlier, actually, which is buy the book, get involved, absorb it, take it all in. And if you want to go further from there, then why not get in contact with one of the many great contributors that are on board and grow your sticks that way.
Awesome. I mean, so is there anything anybody else want to add? Because I want to do one before I wrap up, because I want to do one sort of like fun thing at the end, which I'm sure it's going to be a car crash, but I'll try and explain it to people that are listening on the audio, and I can imagine them just trying to do it while they're out jogging, listening to podcasts and stuff. But before we get to that kind of point, anybody got anything that they want to throw in the mix about all this sort of stuff? Because the book's coming out beginning of December. I think it's going to be December the 6th that we hopefully is going to be live or thereabouts. Again, it's for charity. It's the proceeds are going to go to Doctors Without Borders, and it's just the start of a conversation about what this thing, experience leadership, is all about. It's not finished, as it were. It's an invite to do better things, to do different things. But Amy, you put your hand up, and Serena. Yeah. Amy first.
First of all, I'd like to say just how delighted I was to be involved with this book and contribute to it, because I think it really does bring to the surface so many real issues that need to be addressed. And you just touched on it before. It doesn't need to be perfect, Adrian. The behavioral economists talk about the fact that failure can be your friend. Yeah, fail quick, fail fast, and learn from it, because without failure, you're never going to make things better. It has to be incrementally improving all the time. And people just seem to be paralyzed, that they won't do anything unless there can be 100% guarantees that it's going to be right. And, we talk about that. Joyce's article, talks about don't settle. And it's all about the fact that there's risk. You have to take a risk. You have to put your head above the parapet, and so many people just play it safe.
Awesome. Serena, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think curiosity is something that's also underestimated in a good leader. I think that being able to question the status quo, being able to challenge what's going on, being able to think differently, all leads to innovation and leads to better experiences in the end if you're able to just think outside that box and again, just be curious about why we're doing things the way we are. Is that really why or how we have to do them? And can we come up with something else?
Lara.
So maybe just a confidence boost to the leaders out there who are thinking, no, I can't show any weakness in front of my team. And they have this feeling that they have to have all of the answers. Your teams don't expect you to have the answers. They expect you to make the effort, and to make the effort with them to find solutions to whatever problem it is that you have. So you don't have to know everything. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be everything, except someone who is willing to try something new, someone who is willing to make those mistakes with them and not blame anyone for it. Take it as a learning, because your bravery will then help make them more brave. And that's really what people are looking for, is the opportunity to be brave and try new things. And I read this somewhere, can't remember where, it might have been a meme, it might have been on Instagram. It resonated so much. Be brave enough to suck at something new.
Absolutely. I think the thing I would say that some of the comments they're very personal and they're very individually focused. And I think that that's important, because actually the way that the book was, I conceived the idea of the book, the sort of, if you like, the frame is that it starts with the individual and then it grows out from there to the team and then to the organization and then beyond to the customers and beyond. And much of this leadership stuff starts with the individual leaders, not necessarily with people that are in positions of authority, but at individuals levels themselves, where people have a position of responsibility for their own performance. So everybody can lead. But I think it starts with the individual and it grows out from there. So I think I'm excited by it. I'm excited by the fact that it's just an exploration of almost the start of a conversation about what does it mean to lead. Excuse me. And choked up, obviously, about what it means. What does this XL experience leadership thing kind of means? And just so if it's start of a conversation and we start to kind of like actually actively lean into it, and that we don't necessarily get caught up in this idea it's like CX or it's EX or it's this other X or whatever, and then it becomes another sort of function, another separate domain, another kind of silo. But actually we've kind of gone, we talk about market leadership, we talk about brand leadership, we talk about technological leadership. Why don't we talk about experience leadership too? Let's elevate it up to that kind of level, because that's the level it deserves to be at. So unless everybody's got anything to add, we're going to do the fun thing. Ready? So for people on the audio, I've been thinking about how do we do the kind of the XL sort of thing is just a bit of a fun thing. So what I want you to do is with your left hand is cross your fingers. And then with your right hand, make like a loser sign. Now, it all depends on where you are on your screen, because that actually looks okay on my kind of like screen, but I'm not sure if am I the wrong way around or I should be that way? So you've got to figure out kind of whether you're XL on my screen. That's XL, but it's like, anyway, there's an X and there's an L. You figure out which way kind of like you are. You're either in the mirror, kind of like, or you're kind of showing it to somebody, but that's going to be our sign. It's going to be like a gang, right? Do you want to be in our gang? Be in our XL gang. There you go. That's our sign. And Hannah over there is going, oh my God, how old are you? 4? I'm like going, well, no. But anyway, I just wanted to say that's all for now. I mean, people listen on the audio are going, that's a bit random, but that's fine. It's a bit of a fun thing that you watch the video. It's rubbish, but it's kind of fun to see anyway. But I just want to say thank you all, Amy, Lara, Joyce, Oisin, Tom, and Serena. Thank you to everybody for your participation, your collaboration, your faith in the project. This is the thing that we've produced, my friends. It's for charity. It's for a good cause. Go out and buy it. He says, drop in the book, which should be a mic. But that's all that I have kind of time for today. But I just want to say thanks very much for your time and your attention today. That's been super cool.
Thank you.
Nice one.
Thank you, Adrian. Thanks, everyone.
It's been a pleasure, Adrian.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Nice to meet everyone. Thanks.
Well, that was cool. I hope you enjoyed it. I did, and I always do actually, because I always learn something new when I speak to some of these amazing kind of people. And it's always something new that I can incorporate into my writing, speaking, workshops, and other sort of advisory work that I do. Now, if you're interested in learning about any of that sort of stuff, then you can find out more about how I work with clients over at adrianswinscoe.com. But one final thing before I go, please consider heading over to iTunes or Spotify or whichever podcast platform you choose to use, and do leave a review. Every little helps, as they say. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for listening, and do tune in again soon. All the very best. Cheers. Bye.